this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the 2013 MacBook Air 13-inch. This is the first Mac with Haswell inside. Is it fast? Yes, it is. Is the battery life really phenomenal? Particularly so, and we're going to look at it now. So here it is, the latest generation MacBook Air 13-inch, mid-2013, one of the first Ultrabooks on any platform, Windows, Mac, you name it, to actually have the new 4th generation Intel Haswell CPUs inside. While everybody expected improvements in performance, particularly graphics, we haven't always seen that so much with Haswell so far in Ultrabooks. A little bit of an exception here because of the Intel HD 5000 graphics. We'll talk about that in a bit, but huge leaps and bounds in battery life. Of course, Apple also increased battery capacity over the previous generation MacBook Air, which already had really an amazingly large battery for a device that is this thin and compact. It takes up most of the space inside, actually, the battery packs here. We're up to 7,150 milliamps of battery inside. That is a lot, folks. A lot of Ultrabooks have around 5,000 or so. So that explains in part why this guy gets very good battery life. The other reason is the interesting thing about Haswell. If you get the Intel HD 5000 graphics instead of the 4400 graphics, what you're getting is a slower clocked CPU. Now, assuming you're not doing something graphically intensive, particularly with 3D graphics, the GPU is not doing much, so you've got a CPU that's running at a slower clock speed and not using as much power. Why did Intel do that? So they could get the thermal requirements down so it doesn't get too hot, and so it wouldn't use too much power. So for example, the base MacBook Air 13-inch and the 11-inch model has a 1.3 gigahertz CPU inside with Intel HD 5000 graphics too. Versus what we've seen so far, say, on the Sony Vaio Pro 11 and 13-inch models where they've got faster clock speed, 1.6 gigahertz Core i5s, but the 4400 HD graphics. So you can see where the trade-off's going on right there. The good news in terms of benchmark numbers on this Mac, even though we have slower clock speeds, things are looking good. But of particular interest here, this is the Core i7 option. 1.7 gigahertz Core i7 dual-core CPU. You can only get dual-core CPUs in Ultrabooks, so that's what you got right here. So yeah, we've seen a lot of information about the Core i5s and how they do, but not so much for the Core i7, and that's what we're here to tell you about. So far, battery life still looks to be stunning on this, even though we've got the faster clock speed and the somewhat more demanding CPU inside. And right now at 100%, the Mac is predicting 12 hours of use. So far, it's not lying. That's pretty darn amazing. That's outdoing just about every notebook on the planet. The 1.7 gigahertz model has the Core i7-4650U. If you see the 50U at the end, that means it has Intel HD 5000 graphics instead of 4400 for these ULV CPUs. If you get the Core i3, you're going to be getting the i5-4250U. And that's the 1.3 gigahertz turbo boost to 2.6. Our Core i7 has turbo boost to 3.3 gigahertz. On Geekbench 2, which is a cross-platform tool for benchmarking, pretty popular to use on Macs, we scored 8297. That's quite good. That even beats out our Sony Vaio Pro running on 1.6 gigahertz Core i5, also Haswell. And that guy scored 7666. So there you go. Definitely competitive power here. And you know, this is a dream come true. I remember the first generation MacBook Air. It was gorgeous. It was portable as ever. Look how thin this is. Same as ever. But it was underpowered. Now using this, doing everything. Got Photoshop on here, got Office on here. No problem. Holds up. Doesn't feel slow at all. Yet it's, as ever, incredibly thin, gorgeous. All metal build quality. Aluminum right here. Thin with the signature taper look. 2.96 pounds, so pretty much the definitive Ultrabook size. It's Intel's term that came afterwards for Windows PCs, actually, that are running on ULV CPUs with thin designs and Intel internals. And the ports here, you're looking at mostly the same thing. We have a display port right here that's also a Thunderbolt port combo, so you can drive DisplayPort monitors, you can drive Thunderbolt equipment, including Apple's own Thunderbolt display. It supports that just fine. Certainly the Intel HD 5000 graphics is powerful enough to drive that easily, along with the internal panel if you want to have both running. 2 USB 3.0 ports, intelligently put one on each side so they don't get in each other's ways. If it happens to be something kind of bulky, there's one right there. And we have another one right there. There's our 3.5 millimeter combo headphone jack. MagSafe 2 connector for charging. And back on this side again, we have our SDXC card slot right here. No HDMI on this, but you can get a dongle adapter that goes from mini DisplayPort to HDMI, so not too big a problem there. Same stuff you expect to see on the bottom. Hasn't changed at all. A whole lot of little pentalobe torque screws holding the bottom on, rubber feet here. Not really designed to be upgradable. RAM is soldered on this, just as it was with the last generation MacBook Air. You can order with either 4 or 8 gigs of RAM. It uses the new PCIe SSD drive, new interface, new form factor. In theory, that would be upgradable. And that's about it inside. Other changes for internals, now you have Wi-Fi 802.11ac, that faster standard, and Apple just released a new Airport Extreme that supports that, and I'm sure other wireless access point manufacturers are going to start releasing their stuff in droves soon enough. Usual light up Apple logo on the back. And inside, this stuff hasn't changed. The same excellent oversized glass trackpad here. Backlit keyboard, nice contrast, black keys, white lettering on them. You can see it. Backlighting works in stages, is easy to see. Nice tactile feel on the keyboard. It's a thin machine, so you're not going to get a lot of key travel here, but I find it pretty easy to type on. Power button is one of the keys on the keyboard right here. And you're looking at the same 1440 by 900 display that Apple's been using on previous generation MacBook Airs. That hurts a little bit in terms of the specs where now that we have a lot of full HD Ultrabooks on the market on the Windows side of things. Not that this is a unclear or unattractive looking display. You can see how colorful it is right here. You can see the stripes on the zebras pretty well and the detail on the grass, so certainly not a horrible display, and viewing angles are quite good. Even as we turn it sideways like that, you can see colors are not shifting, brightness is not shifting too much, so even though it's not an IPS panel, you have to go pretty far off angle before you start losing it. So a nice enough display. Yes, it's not full HD, but you know what, there's a couple of reasons probably for that. Number one, Apple doesn't want to stomp on their Retina line of products, so there has to be a reason for you to pay more for those. Driving bigger displays uses up more power. If they want this guy to be like the record holder for how long a notebook can run, well, they're not going to do something, give you a super duper high resolution display here. And also, it's more taxing on the CPU and the GPU. And for those who start out with that 1.3 gigahertz Core i5 with Intel HD 5000 graphics, you don't want to push it too much. And to see just how sharp or not sharp fonts look, here's our website, Mobile Tech Review. We're going to check out a review so you can see a whole lot of text. And photos as well. And given that it's 128 ppi, I have to say, it looks really quite nice. It's not hard on the eyes at all. Now, if you're used to a Retina Mac, you're going to see the difference, certainly. But for the rest of us who have not been using Retina Macs a lot, it looks just fine to me. And really what it comes down to, if you're trying to decide, do you want a Retina Mac, do you want a regular MacBook Pro, do you want a MacBook Air, what do you need? Or do you need something that's incredibly portable with really long battery life? Then you need the MacBook Air. Do you want something with a gorgeous display and you're willing to spend some more money, $300 or more, and carry something around that's more than a pound heavier? Then you're getting into the Retina territory for the 13-inch. The 15-inch is obviously even heavier than that. And then, for those of you who are on a tight budget, but you need a full-featured, all-arounder kind of Mac, maybe with an optical drive, full mobile CPUs, and that's your regular MacBook Pro. So let that be your guidance. And for those of you who really want a game, look at something like the MacBook Pro with some dedicated graphics inside, because dedicated graphics are still where it's at if you want to play something beyond casual games. And for those of you who are primarily looking for Windows machines, here we have the Sony Vaio Pro 13, the direct competitor, also running Haswell. This with Intel HD 4400 graphics. Not too big a deal, honestly. Either 4400 or 5000, neither of them are going to get you playing Crysis 3 with great frame rates or anything like that. But you can see it's pretty much the same size, same footprint. A lot of the same features, a little bit faster clock speeds available on the Sony. But other than that, you look at similar form factor right here. And I'd say we're going to have a smackdown between these two in particular. But overall, if you want to run Windows, I would say you're better off just getting Windows machine. If you want to run Mac OS, then get the MacBook Air. Why do I say that? I mean, there are those of you who are going to run something like Parallels because you don't have great demands for performance for your Windows apps, but for those of you who are boot camping, and boot camp drivers are not yet available for our Air, but typically those drivers are not as good, really, particularly when it comes to battery profiles and power settings, so you don't get as good battery life, for example. And yeah, you know, you get the idea. Get the machine that was meant to run the OS that you want. Speaking of operating system, this comes with Mac OS X Mountain Lion, and you get the usual launcher here for your applications. You get your latest iLife suite, so you get your iPhoto, iMovie, all those things pre-installed, built in. Our 128 gig SSD model, which is what we have here with 4 gigs of RAM, has about almost 100 gigs free out of the box, which is pretty darn nice. A lot of space to work with there. after installing Adobe CS 5.5, Adobe Creative Suite 5, full Office suite, various utilities, we still have about 86 gigs free, so that's nice, pretty roomy. Let's test out some gaming. We're going to try out Diablo 3 running the native Mac version, not running this through Windows. Let's see how it does. And so here are the settings that he wants to go with. We're going to let it give this a try. This is 1440 by 900, which is native resolution. And you can see our texture quality is high, our shadow quality is medium, our physics is high, our cluster density is high. We have anti-aliasing turned on. And I bet this is going to be too much for it, but we'll find out. So first off, you can hear that fan really kicking up. So if you're going to play a demanding game like this, even a Mac can get noisy. Apple's often shy of turning up those fans, but when they need to, they will. So you can see our frame rate here in this bottom corner. Right now it's at 25, and we're not really doing much of anything, but our settings are pretty darn crazy. And as we run around the environment, we're sticking pretty well at 26 or so. Going down a little bit to the 20s, lower 20s. Let's see if we can find somebody to fight with here. Aha! And now our frame rate's going down to about 21, so that's actually not too bad. But let's see if we can make things a little bit better by reducing settings a little bit. Let's turn off anti-aliasing. And go with physics, low, cluster density, medium. We will go with lower texture quality. Lower shadow quality. We'll go to low. And now, look at that. So we have everything on pretty much lower settings. It's not so pretty anymore. But we're 41, 40 frames per second, so much more playable and fluid looking. So that gives you an idea of what the Intel HD 5000 graphics can do with a 1.7 gigahertz Intel Core i7 on the MacBook Air. Really, this isn't a machine that you're going to buy to be a serious gaming machine anyway, but it's nice to see that I can manage to do some of this. So that's Diablo 3 on the Haswell MacBook Air 13-inch. So that got the fan roaring a bit. It really wasn't burning hot on the bottom, and it only took about 2.5 minutes for it to calm down and be absolutely silent again after playing Diablo 3. So not too bad there for heat management. In fact, pretty darn good. Now we're going to check out what a video looks like. This is a full HD video. Obviously, it's going to have to scale down to fit on this display, and you can hear the speakers, which are quite nice. That's about half volume. And our volume is at about 60%. Looks great, plays great, sounds great too. Nice. And yes, it's an Apple product. You can run iTunes on it just fine and play iTunes video and iTunes HD video. Not a problem at all. And now we're running Adobe Photoshop CS 5.1 here. That's part of the 5.5 suite. And we've got a JPEG image here that is 7 megs in size. We're going to test out speed real quick on it. I'm sure it's going to do absolutely fine, but we're going to try something like reduce noise, because that's often a little bit slow. It has to think a lot more about that than it does when it sharpens. And that's pretty quick for an analysis. There actually isn't much noise in here, so this may actually make the photo look worse. Who knows? And it's chugging along. It is still chugging along. There we go. Done. Now that's one of the slower filters that you can use, granted. So if we want to do something more common, like most people are going to do an unsharp mask, which you really shouldn't do after you do a reduced noise, but that's okay. That's just about instant. If I want to do something like an image rotation, 90 degrees clockwise, that's just going to be pretty darn quick. So overall, I'd say that's quite nice. So there's your Photoshop running on the MacBook Air 13-inch. So that's the 13-inch MacBook Air mid-2013 with the Haswell CPU refresh and Intel HD 5000 graphics. Same industrial design we've seen since about 2010, but it's aging well. It's still one of the most attractive-looking Ultrabooks on the market. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.